I have no idea what we're talking about. I'm just very interested in this podcast that you asked me to be on, and the title alone has intrigued me.
Let's go.
Hey, look, I got homies on here. I've never even done a live like this before, so I don't know if that makes me a douchebag like everybody else that does lives, or it makes me fit in now with the young, cool crowd.
Right.
But my homie North, what up? What up? Then Matty Ice.
Yo.
My wife, I'm gonna jump off real quick. My wife's asking what I'm doing, so I might as well tell her. Okay. So, why are people doing a lot of fucking... Do I have to approve all of these requests? It says like all these requests, like requesting to be on here, telling followers to start a live video.
I don't know.
Whatever. You know.
Keep an eye on it. So I'll do the intro.
Oh, now I'm gonna kick you off, Matt, because I have no idea why you're on my live. So I don't know what I'm doing here. How do I get him off of here? It's my boy Matt.
He's part of the podcast now. What's up?
Are you on this podcast now? All right, there you are. But yeah, so cool. Got some people following. My wife, probably the only person that matters. No offense to the other couple of people that knows this. This was very last minute.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on.
Yeah, dude. The name of the podcast. What's the name of the podcast?
Slightly interesting.
Apparently, I'm slightly interesting enough to be on this.
You made it.
And
yes.
So thank you. You know, I appreciate it. I think this is gonna do well. You know, so I brought some kava.
Nice.
For my anxiety and just yeah. And then this is one of the first times I've done something, gone into something recently at least that I don't know anything about. You know what I mean? Or what the premise is. So I'm ready to rock, man.
All right. Well, yeah, the premise is just basically, I was thinking in my work and travel and life, there's all these interesting people that I know and work with, and I'm always fascinated by their stories. And you always see people and you think like, wow, they're successful or they have accomplished something, and you think, oh, it must have been easy. But that's usually not the case, right?
It's never the case. Never the case.
They're like, oh, they're so lucky, but that's usually not the case, you know.
Yeah.
There's that saying, the harder I work, the more lucky I get, you know. So I really just want to create this podcast, Slightly Interesting Podcast, to bring people that I admire and think that have accomplished things, and I want to share their story and their struggles. So it's really just to kind of help give guidance for some people that may need it, you know.
All right. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. You know, hopefully I can share some insights, you know. It's like like I just said, you know, like the few followers I do have on like just Instagram isn't a perfect example. Like I don't know a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I wonder, you know, it's usually I'll gain even followers just on Instagram about something that I posted, but most of the time it's something that I stole from someplace else. And I think in a huge way, success is just you stealing the right information from the right people and applying it.
It's true. Yeah. I say you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it's like all this information is out there, and it's just those that captured it or wrote a book or did whatever. Those are the ones that, you know, can help other people. So it's kind of like in this day, we have all this recording, live, digital record, you know, everything is being recorded. So now if we can use that to help other people, even if it's just one person, like I always say to myself, like, who's going to want to listen to me? Like no one wants to know what I've done, and I'm not interesting. Like we were just talking about, like people find it interesting, I guess. And that's slightly interesting.
Yeah, that's a good one. That was a good one. I have it's weird because, like, you know, I'm gonna try to ignore the live over here because I think that I've gotten in my head that like people were watching me on the spot, you know what I mean? And so I'm just gonna. So I apologize. I understand if anybody's tuning out because of that. But but like again, like I'm usually on the other side of the mic because obviously I have a podcast and I've conducted interviews and all this shit. So it's weird. Like so I've actually turned down a lot of podcasts to be on because it's weird being asked shit, because to me it's just my story, just like a million other people's story, is their own story. So it's hard to really articulate that into, like, you know, like I got approached recently to write a book. Someone volunteered to help me create a book, and that's even weirder to me because I don't know if I'd even read that book, you know what I mean? Because it's just like, it's just what I do, like, you know, and so, you know, I also hope that the shit that I say is, can I cuss on this podcast?
You can.
No, because I have a foul mouth, and I've already made peace with that and God, you know, so I cuss a lot, and so there's, you know, I just, I think this is a nice kickoff. Like, obviously I've been on a few other podcasts, but it's had something to do with something like one was music related, the other one's cannabis related. I could talk about cannabis all day, unfortunately, because that's what I do for a living, a big part of it. But I think that if I was to, what I tried to think, even just pulling into the parking lot, because of the name of the podcast, Slightly Interesting, is that what's the most interesting part of my life? If I really was to just peel back the onion, and it really, in my personal opinion, you're going to get 100 people on here potentially. It's going to talk about the success of like when they made a commitment to succeed somehow. Something sparks there. It's just like getting sober or anything else. Like you have to make a decision, a conscious decision to like I just said at breakfast today, jump off a cliff and learn how to fly on the way down. And you have to do that with sobriety or anything. You put your faith in God or anything else. But
Definitely.
What makes my story maybe a little more interesting than the quote unquote average person is like the start of the story more than anything, because it's something that I wasn't even comfortable talking about for years because, well, one, I was embarrassed, about it, And it wasn't until, I got older and became kind of more self-aware and stopped giving a shit about what other people thought about me. Because, for years I would say I didn't give a shit about what people thought about me. But that's really just a defense mechanism for people that actually give a shit about what people think about them. Now I'd be lying if I said I didn't care. I woke up today and I, minus the skipping my haircut to come here, like I care about what I look like before I leave the house. Some days a little bit more than others. And then, I get people to tell me that I look like I wear pajamas to the office. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I don't care enough. But
opinions vary.
Opinions vary, right? As long as my wife, she's still on here. My wife is my wife, God, my family, close friends, I guess, are sort of on that list. Like, I don't care necessarily about what the rest of people think about me, you know what I mean? And, you can kind of tell your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Like I thought you're a cool guy. Like first time I met you, so I was like, yeah, dude, it'd be cool to do something with this guy because he's a good dude,
Yeah, thank you.
And so that's my long-winded. Sorry, I didn't mean to take over your podcast.
No, it's good.
But it's my long-winded way of saying that, like, my story is not necessarily any different than a lot of other people's stories. That once they made a commitment to focus on their goals, that they're gonna eventually achieve something, pressure builds diamonds, they say, or, I'm a fucking walking motivational poster fucking guy. Like, I quote things all the time, But, my story is an interesting one because of, like I said, like, I grew up in a shitty situation, and I noticed, like, one of my closest friends in the world, and the guy that helped me get sober, Jimmy, just jumped on the live, is that, I think I even related to him a lot in the end because our similar, he helped me get sober, and, our stories were very similar growing up, so.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, how I hope, I guess I'm getting around to it. And I like to say that I take the scenic route to things. Or my wife said today, like, I tend to ramble, And so
it's perfect for podcast.
Yeah, perfect for podcast and annoying your customers or your employees sometimes,
Yeah.
But I grew up. I don't know the format of your thing. Do you want me to just jump into what makes, like, really?
So basically, just curious what First, I guess we need to know what you're doing, and then some of the stories of how you overcame it, or whatever the challenges were to do it. Because you're a man of many hats. You've got all kinds of things going on, and I don't even know all of them. So
I don't even know all of them.
List a few of them, and whatever you think is.
I met with a friend of mine, Jack, who will eventually see this podcast. Probably, and he's in recovery as well. Met him yesterday to pick up a wood piece that he did for my wife like a year ago, and I still didn't pick up.
Yeah.
And when he walked up, man, he's like an old school like a white gangster from Venice, you know what I mean? He's like, dude, what's up, bro? Like, you're the busiest fucking guy in the world. And I was like, dude, I don't want to be. It's just the way I work. I work. I spend time with my wife and family, and close friends, and then I paint graffiti once in a while, which is a whole other thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I guess what I do, I'd say primarily, starting like in chronological order, is that I won't go. For sake of time, I won't go into like my education or what I did too much out before I got into business for myself, other than, I was a district manager for a retail company. I went to college. I did some things before going into business for myself that at the time I thought was a success. I was a young market leader and district manager for a retail company, and I I was a music promoter for a while. Nothing big. Like I didn't throw EDC or anything like that. I threw like small dive bar shows because I realized that, as long as you paid bands, a lot of promoters didn't pay the band, what I mean? And so I just made sure that I pay the band before myself or anything else, or I'd work it out because I've always had, I think, a mind for sales or promotion or whatever, or closing really, is that I would work it out to the bar where I know that at least the bar, what they would kick me back on the bar that night would at least pay for the band, even if I didn't make any money. So I kind of had my own niche in like music promoting for a little while.
Nice.
And so, fast forward, from the time I started working to, when I got into business for myself, I found out I had cancer when I went to school, got out of school, started in the corporate world, I'll say. And I don't want to I feel like I've discouraged people in their education sometimes. Like I've had people tell me that they want to quit college or something because they met me, and I was like, no, don't quit college. Like that was an education. I mean, you don't know. It's just, but go to college because you want to do something with it. Don't go to college because the world tells you need to go to college, because that idea of that bullshit that's old. That's like an old way of thinking. I know a guy that, dropped out of 11th grade, and he's one of the most successful people I know. So that's all bullshit. That's all old school mentality stuff. But I finished school, and you wouldn't know sometimes by the way I talk and shit like that I'm educated, but I am. But, I finished school. I went into the corporate world. 11 months into the corporate world, I found out I was sick. And so I thought I was doing the right thing. I could have waited a month till I was past my probation period, and then I had insurance, and then I could have just rode it out, got treatment, and they would have never known until then. But I thought I was doing the right thing because my insurance was, I was a month away from getting insured at the job, so I told them I was sick. Well, instead of them coming in and being sympathetic to it, they laid me off because I wasn't past my probation period. So hindsight's 2020. I met with a lawyer years later. He said, if I wouldn't have taken the severance package, I could have sued him. But at the time, it was a blessing in disguise because I took that severance and I started my first, not my first business, but I got into the cannabis industry with that. My parents watch my podcast, so more than likely they'll see this. And that's a whole other story because my parents are actually dead, but my ex-wife's parents pretty much adopted me because I had a son young. If it wasn't for those guys, I'd probably be in prison. That's a key part of where we're going to Tarantino this thing at, And so, I got into business for myself in cannabis because they were cannabis growers. And they said, I knew a guy that was a delivery driver. They were growing weed. And so the mind that I had at the time was like, okay, they grow weed. The medical industry wasn't that hard to get into. And I had about 15 grand in my name, maybe 20 grand, I think, with the severance. But I also was a single dad at the time. I shouldn't say single. Like I'd separated from my son's mom, and so I was kind of raising my son sort of on my own. Yeah. And I had bills and shit. So then I said, you know what? I was so pissed off, and so I was so frustrated that I had spent those years getting an education to go into a field that basically threw me out because I was sick. Mm-hmm. So instead of going and begging for my job back where I was working before I finished school, it just clicked. I said, you know what? Fuck this. Like, I've always talked all this shit all these years about I can run anything, I can do anything. It's now time to put my money where my mouth is and actually go do it. Yeah. So 3-4 months in, I lost my house. My car was 4 months behind. I parked it around the corner. So, I would literally pull into a store, and if I even seen a tow truck within the vicinity, I wouldn't go to that store. You know what I mean? That was how paranoid I was. And so I moved into a buddy's garage who still to this day gets free weed because of it. You know what I mean? And I said, look, I don't know if this shit's going to work at all, but if it does, you'll never pay for weed. Now, almost 14 years later, he still doesn't pay for weed. You know what I mean? So I stayed true to my word. So I started a cannabis business. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that I went into a couple dispensaries and seen how poorly they were being ran. And I was like, man, you can almost be a dumbass in this industry and make money. At the time, now it's not really the case these days, So I got into cannabis. I started delivery service in Redlands, which is still there. Like, my delivery service is still there. It's like our flagship, I guess you would say, delivery service. And then I had a buddy of mine that, again, in hindsight, I'm glad he didn't take the deal. I said, hey, like, I can't really afford to pay you, but if you do have to get paid, I'll figure out a way to pay you. But if you want to wait a little, I'll give you 50% of my business. Well, fuck, I mean, after just my lowest evaluation now, that would have been dumb as shit. But for him, that would have been a good investment,
Good deal.
And so, no, he needed to get paid. So I paid him for like the first 7 months. you know what I mean, that I really couldn't afford. I paid him $100 a day. That wasn't gas or anything, but this was 14 years ago, so the economy wasn't as bad. Gas wasn't as bad. Then I grew another route. Started dabbling in cultivation, like growing. It wasn't really called cultivation as it is now, and just kind of grew from there. Now, years later, I lost my enthusiasm for the cannabis industry for about a year and a half recently, and then I went into like a public deal. I can't really talk about it, but I went into a public deal, and I kind of lost my, I started dealing with, we call them chads, you know what I mean? Like people that are from not the cannabis industry, they get into the cannabis industry, and they were kind of starting to pull the strings a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I kind of lost my enthusiasm for cannabis.
Yeah.
Then when I broke free from that last year, I noticed my cannabis consulting. I just accidentally fell into that too because of what I've learned over the years, started taking off. Mm-hmm. And so we still do retail. We do distribution. I have an amazing distribution partner out here in Palm Springs that I work with. I have a team of I have a creative director, marketing director, operations guy, Art, watches all the podcasts I'm on. He's an amazing dude. He's my number 2. I have Pete, who's an amazing, he's jumped on a new project with us that he's literally handling business that I probably should be at right now. You know what I mean? And he's there. Good. And so it's like, and then, so the consulting, Pete. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Pete's the man. Thanks, Pete. And, so, we have cannabis consulting, we have brand development. We can do anything for a cannabis company, like from start to finish. If it's licensing and to get their own storefront, we can help them with that. If it's to start a delivery service. I just met today for breakfast with a guy that's potentially starting his own delivery service. He got a settlement at work and wants to get into the space, but wants to do it carefully with the right people. Yeah. And then now I consult for outside businesses as well. But then I'm also... I'm an investor and a partner in a sushi place in Vegas that I'm never at.
Really? That's cool.
I'm never at because I'm burned out on sushi there, and then and when I go there, it's always usually with family. So mm-hmm. I kind of save that time to go to their family because they want to check out the spot. Yeah. Sushi place. I'm an investor in a candle company that I only see money around the holidays for because it's not a very lucrative business, and the holidays it is, so I'll get a check. And then the kava business is I have a couple of kava business, kava bar. The founder of, and we have some other JV relationships out in Vegas. It's Wolf's Den Kava. Kava, for those that don't know that's watching, this is an alternative to alcohol and things. We sell kava, kratom, like plant-based alternatives to alcohol that does that helped me when I got sober. And so, so work-wise, career-wise, I guess that's what I do, But then I've also volunteered a lot of time in the recovery world. Like we have a company I have my podcast, Raised by Wolves. Yeah. And Raised by Wolves it started as an idea of just a group of guys that wanted to do something that was like an alternative to kind of not compete with AA and NA, but just have like that wolf pack mentality.
Yeah, I like that.
And then we started Raised by Wolves, and that turned into a podcast that's I would say is moderately successful. We're not on Spotify or Apple, like I said, and we already have a decent following just on YouTube. No reason we're not on those other platforms other than we need to clean up maybe the language a little bit, or I don't know really what that is because my creative director could tell you more why we're not on those platforms than me at this point. Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell now. Like that's the 2024 version. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm sober. I'm sober, dude. Like I got sober 4.5 years ago. I wasn't never a drug user, but I drank a lot. Lost weight, got in shape, turned my life around. Met a guy named Jimmy that probably is still live on here, and headed to the. Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. The brand I've never done a live before, so again, I'm trying to ignore it, and then I jump on and say some cool comments. Like people are interested in shit that I say, so
that's cool.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not as dumb as I thought, or maybe I don't sound as dumb as I thought. When I watch my own podcast, bro, that's hard sometimes because I feel like I talk like lazy. You know what I mean? And I was told growing up that I needed to change the way I speak, and I really think I bit through my tongue when I was younger, and so for a long time. It kind of gave me a speech impediment. And I think now looking at myself, I don't think it ever really went away. Huh. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just something that I don't really talk about. But I think I notice it now. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, that's me. 2024, that's kind of me and what I do. These days, my life, I can't say it's boring by any means. But, I met a girl, that I never thought I would get married again. My first marriage wasn't your normal, traditional wedding. Our marriage, I should say. We had a kid young and stuff, and she's still great. She still works for me and stuff. But met a girl, married her 3 months later after I told myself I'd never get married again. So there was that. And
Nice.
so I told her like the second time I hung out with her, I was going to marry her. And she was just kind of laughed it off. And then I got married 3 months later, you know, and
You
so
knew right away.
I knew, yeah. Once you know, you know. But again, like that's just me. I guess I can keep talking about what I'm doing in 2024, but that's still not, I don't think, the meat of like that's not my DNA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I got to this place.
That's who you are now, and it's so bringing up there's so many aspects of what you do. It's crazy, and it's got to be difficult to juggle all that stuff, And it's funny how things evolve, and they kind of like one door will open, and then it's like a whole new rabbit hole, and it's something you didn't even plan, and that happens to me too. Like you're like, oh, I didn't even think I would end up doing this, and then here you are, successful doing crazy things years later.
Success is measured weird though to some people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I think the easy thing to do if you're a 9-to-5 guy is to measure success by your bank account. You know what I mean? But I don't. You hear these things over the years, but you don't really listen to them. They don't resonate with you until it actually happens in your life. I think success for me this year, at least, is not necessarily how much. I don't think making money is hard. And that's like a weird statement when you don't have money. It's like when you don't have oxygen, you're like, well, breathing is easy. But then when the oxygen's gone in the room, you can't breathe.
Yeah, I know what you
I think making money is easy. Like I could lose everything today and go out and get a high-paid sales job in like something solar or fucking anything really, selling these bottles right here and probably do well because I'm confident in me now. But I think that this year is about helping other people around me become successful. I think is where it's at. That's why I think the consulting is so important for me. And then also I think the success is there's some people that have like been by my side in the last couple of years when I did lose enthusiasm for the industry, or we went into this public deal, the public company, and didn't work out. Like it's important for me to not only prove to myself that I can help them become successful because they were looking out for my best interest, but it gives me kind of a target, you know what I mean? Because for me, it's like if I want to make a couple $100,000 a year, well, I'm pretty confident in making a couple $300,000-$400,000 a year if I go out and do what I need to do. Yeah. But now if I can start bringing these people up with me that I care about, make them successful, and then also I think success also is measured. How success can be measured in a non-monetary way is like the people that you help better their lives. Like, I was down on myself. Like, I was really pissed off of myself right around Christmas. I was actually really in my feels. I was helping my brother. My brother was going through some stuff. I was helping my stepbrother kind of get back on his feet, sobriety-wise and stuff. Yeah. And I was pissed off of myself. And then I realized I keep kind of an account of, like, all the people that have helped point at least in the right direction, like with the sobriety project, and realized that we've helped in some manner, get over 140 people into some sort of recovery. Whether they've stayed or not is up to them, really.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then it makes me feel a little bit better about being pissed off of myself last year that we helped so many people get into recovery, Mm-hmm. And so
that's good.
So yeah, like you said, there's so many different ways you can view what I do, and it is slightly interesting, you know what I mean? Because it's like when I look at from the outside in, it's like I look very scattered. I had a good friend of mine the other day say, "Man, you live kind of scattered," and it's like not really.
Organized chaos.
Organized chaos, right? Exactly. And so that's kind of, again, like that's just a little to elaborate a little bit more on like what I got going on,
Yeah, that's good. So doing all these things, I know you got sober. How long you said? 4 years?
November. I get this mixed up because I have another date in January that's relevant, but it's November 19th. Is my sobriety day, 2019. No, 11/20. Oh my God, why do I miss 11/24/19 is like my sobriety date. Okay. And so it's weird because that date is like so embedded in my head, and I've been in 100 AA meetings and talked about that. For some reason, I'm put on the spot, and I have it tattooed on my leg, so I should never forget that.
That's funny.
And so I've been sober. I had a really bad drinking problem. I joked when I moved to Vegas. I moved to Vegas in 2015 primarily, and I joked that I'd be a degenerate in 6 months, jokingly, and I became a degenerate in like 6 months. I manifested that.
That's the place to do it for sure.
Yeah, no shit. Vegas can be very lucrative. It can be very good if you're about your shit, about making money and going out there, because Vegas has a different mentality because you're pushed to kind of almost live up to an expectation when you move there, or you can get eaten up by it. It's really like I think it's worse than even Hollywood. You know what I mean? Because Hollywood, they say you go there, that's where dreams go to die.
Yeah.
But Vegas is definitely, you either go out there and you're either about it or you're not. You know what I mean? And probably shouldn't go there if
like
you
a shooting star. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's funny. So when you became sober, do you think that had any kind of assistance in your success now, or the things you've accomplished, or where would you be?
I think it actually hindered me at first, because so when I was drinking, let me put it to you this way: my relationships that I have now are better because I'm sober, but I also have empathy and sympathy. I'm bigger on, like, I don't look to finish fights anymore, I guess is the easiest way to say it. But when I was drinking, I'll use an example of something that I did that I'm not necessarily proud of. It's a funny story, but I'm not proud of, is that I had a guy that, tried to stick me with a $10,000 bill on some CBD water that I was helping him. Long story short, he knew what he did. He baited me to take some CBD water. So I told him, when I used to drink, I said, dude, if you don't do this, I'm going to put you out of business, because I have the means to let somebody else use my license, and then I'll just poach all your customers because I know them. And with my, I would say, closing skills, I'll just poach your customers. He told me to get the fuck out of his office, and he wasn't going to do shit. And he's going to hear I'm going to hear from his lawyer. So then I put him out of business. I wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't do that sober now. I'd just let it go.
Yeah.
I'd be like, take fucking water. No one's going to court over this. I'm sending your water back, and I'm calling it a day, and it's easier to walk away from a fight.
Yeah.
Physically and metaphorically it is, because I'd get into I was like 40 years old getting into bar fights and shit. It's like, why? Like, you know what I mean? Why? Like, I don't do that. It's like, I wouldn't condemn that attitude, like, from my son or from friends or family members, but I'm doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I've learned to adapt. Like, back then it was easier for me to close a deal, and if I made 10 grand on the deal, it didn't necessarily, as long as I was happy and my conscience was okay, I was okay with it. But now I go into every deal in a little bit different, trying to think about the people that are connected to that deal. How are they going to feel about it? Because I don't have that, like, alcohol blocking the way that I feel towards other people. Like, I mean, if a situation comes up that I know I'm in the right, I can usually kind of empathize with the person that necessarily doesn't see it the same way I do, if that makes any sense.
That's cool. So, Kava, you got into Kava. How long has that been?
Well, about 2 weeks after I got sober. So yeah, I was in Vegas, and I quit drinking, and I started working out, walking, stuff like that. But I was bored, you know what I mean? Because a lot of drinking is ritual.
Yeah.
And so I was not on great terms with my ex, but I was still in communication with my ex. And she said, I should try Kava. So I Googled it, because I didn't know what the hell it was. I mean, you didn't know what it was when I met you. Most people don't, which is where the opportunity is in Kava, for multiple reasons. And so we looked up a place. Me and a friend of mine, a few people, looked up a place, and they opened at 4. And I went over there. I was there right before 4. They opened up, and then Jai, which is, I'm still friends with the guy. He sat there. He explained to me what Kava was. It's a root from the Polynesian island, and it's turned into basically like a tea. Yeah. And you can use it in mocktails. And, in our bar, a lot of Kava bars, it's a very traditional kind of juice type bar, where we're more like, we can do that stuff. We're like more of a mocktail place. Yeah. So I tried traditional. They call it dirt water, mud water, dirt water. I tried it in a Tanoa, which is a traditional way of drinking Kava. And I noticed that I felt pretty relaxed, and my anxiety from not drinking, from the anxiety I'd built from not drinking, kind of went away. But I wasn't impaired, so it was weird. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so Kava has a reverse tolerance too. So you know what I mean? What's the more you drink doesn't necessarily mean the more you're gonna get Kava faded or whatever people call it. It's just kind of
just like a relaxing effect.
Yeah. When I used to drink beer only, I'd always say that, man. I wish I could drink 2 beers and have that 2 beer feeling and just there. And that's kind of what Kava does. Yeah. And so the thing is that I drink Kava, and of course I'm an entrepreneur already at this point in my life. And so I knew I was going to do something in Kava, like before I left. So of course I say, like, hey, can I get some of this? Can I buy some of this? I want to mess with it. And fast forward 4 years later, I actually own that place that, we rebranded Wolves Den. And, there's it's an amazing team of both, like, you know, managing partners and employees. We have an amazing general manager, and it's just been a cool experience. And then we have out here with Flat Black, our friend Pete, like we have something in development that we can't really talk too much about. Where we're opening something out here, fully opening something, not the pop-up bar that we have.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then who knows, man? There's talks. There's like current talks about expanding this in other places because it goes right along not only with the sobriety community, but I met a guy yesterday that still drinks occasionally, but he has kava because he says that he knows that if he didn't have kava as an alternative, his casual wine on the weekends with friends would probably turn into a drinking problem because he likes to chill, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunity there to, you know, help people and, you know,
Yeah,
what I mean, do
that's good.
something.
It's kind of like coffee. Like it's like a ritual. It becomes part of your daily routine or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could see that. In the desert here, there's really no other.
There's no kava place.
Yeah, there's no coffee.
Nobody carries kava out here. So, I mean, we technically do at Flat Black right now. But
Yeah.
we're working on some things working with the health department, some contractors and stuff like that to get something going. Part of my day today is to kind of, you know, continue to move that project forward and stuff. And so the goal is really, at least for me, is to try to get our products into a lot of stores, like our consumer products, like our business-to-business products in the next year, into a lot of stores that are kind of kava friendly stores. I'll use an example. Is like I stopped on the way over here at like the place Juice, you know,
Yeah.
the juice bar, and got like a cayenne pepper ginger shot, you know. But that's a perfect place that if that franchise owner was to carry like some kava base or, you know what I mean, product.
Yeah.
And then a partner of mine, Charles, you know, he's a big supplement guy. You know, he calls himself, he's a self-proclaimed like meathead, you know what I mean? And he said that gyms, like, you know what I mean, for pre and post workout, you know what I mean, kava is a
Yeah.
good thing for, you know.
Supplement.
So yeah, we hope to really spread that footprint, you know. I think that's going to be my what's it called, you know what I mean, when you're kind of at the end of your working career, but then you're focused on a, you know, because they say, you know, people die when they retire, right?
Yeah, don't
And
retire.
Don't retire. And I think that kava is going to be my, what is it, the Cinderella story? What was that called? You know what I mean? Your last leg of your life or
I know
something
what
they
you
say.
mean. I'm not sure.
I think that's what's going to be. You know
That's
what I mean?
cool.
I think it's going to be helping people in recovery and like helping spread the word with kava.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I mean?
it's definitely something that could, because like you said, I agree. Like that's the struggle for me, because I haven't been drinking it. For those that don't know,
And that's harder for you too because of what you do.
yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
It's a
tough.
routine, you know, and everybody knows you, or they know what you drink, and it's like so. I felt like I had to change my behaviors and places that I went, and trying to replace those habits. Like you said, it's a ritual. Like, okay, now it's about time for me to go get whatever, you know, and it could apply to cigarettes, it could
Yep.
apply to coffee, it could apply to anything. But being able to replace it with something that's not as damaging as like alcohol or those kind of things.
Well, I think the idea, honestly, is to replace it with. This is just, you know, this is the gospel of Joe, right? But
Yeah.
replace all the shit that's messing your body up with something else. We
Yes.
have, you know, no matter what your faith is, your belief in God or whatever's after this, we have one body, one life. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And so it's how we treat it. Because we'll get pissed off at, like, if someone comes, my brother's a meathead. He told me years ago when I was 315 pounds and drinking all the time. He said, man, if somebody came into your house, I already knew where he was going because I use these fucking analogies all the time. He said, if someone came into your house and put poison in your fridge, would you drink that shit? I go, no. He's all, well, you're doing it to yourself. You got fucking milk in here. You got this. You got.
Yeah.
We don't like to swallow our own truth ever. But
Yeah.
if you can replace I'd rather be bored. Well, I don't know. This is weird. That's me. I'd rather be bored and healthy than out there at a fucking club drinking and smoking and doing all shit. I used to smoke like a pack of cigarettes. I was like a pack and a half cigarette smoker a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then I drank and I did all this other shit that was wrong for me. And then I'd be angry at the world because, like, I'd be pissed off about the wrong things. I'd be mad because, like, you know, there's like hormones in milk. But then I'm drinking whiskey, bitching about it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
I
so we
can't
gotta
drink that milk.
just if you can replace as many of your unhealthy habits as possible, well, then you're gonna be more successful in anything that you're doing
Yeah.
if your brain's working right.
Yes.
I got a whole, I mean, you know, and again, I didn't try to sideline what you just said either. I feel like I'm gonna just cut you off
Go
from
for it.
what you're going on, but
I'm just nudging the conversation.
yeah.
I'm not the guest.
You're the bumper. You're the bumper. So I screwed myself up for a year. I just got over doing so last year. You know, there was a lot of, you know, pressure points going on in my life. You know what I mean? I was in this public deal, had a lot of stress, had a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of changes that happen because what they don't tell you when you take your company public is now you're running essentially two companies. You're running the public entity side, and you're also running the current company that you put in there. Mm-hmm. So I was already 60, 70 hours a week working in my field, and then you throw another full-time, very highly regulated. I'm already in a highly regulated industry, and then you add another layer of regulations to it that costs you to be public. It costs you about $300,000 to be public a year. Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm stressed out last year. Like everything from my testosterone levels fucked up to everything's just screwed up, and I'm like, I can't. This doesn't make sense. And I have doctors telling me that it's your stress levels. You're 45 years old. You're just stressed out. You need to get rid of the stress shit. So me being like the workhorse I am, I'm just pushing through it, right? But the whole time, because I'm in the kava and kratom industry, the whole time, I start drinking these. I don't care that unless this is gonna fuck your podcast up, I openly talk about this supplement that I,
go for it.
And it's like, so I started taking this supplement called Feel Free, like by Botanic Tonics, and I don't give a shit personally if they serve me a cease and desist, as long as it doesn't mess your podcast up in any way. So this company, they don't even respond to my fucking emails, so more than likely they're not responding to this anyway. So I start taking this supplement because on the back of the bottle, it appears to be a lot lower dosage per bottle. It's 2-ounce shot than what I'm usually drinking kava and kratom anyways. And so I kind of started drinking them out of pure convenience. It had nothing to do with whether or not I liked them better. They actually taste like shit, Yeah. I started taking them, and right around this time I start taking them is when I start seeing my stress level kind of going in a bad direction. I recall going to Oceanside with my wife and my kids a year ago and spending the whole vacation on my phone in the Airbnb right by the beach because of stress. And hindsight's 2020. I saw a picture of my stepdaughter and me, and I have one of those damn shots in the background. So I was already drinking these. So I find out what's in them because I'm actually thinking about making one for my kava business. Yeah. The lab tells me that there's the equivalent in one of those, about 30 kratom drinks in one of them. Wow. I don't know. I don't know what they're basing that on. He says, how many of these are you drinking a month? And I said, I'm drinking 4 to 10 of those a day potentially, depending on the day. He goes, how are you walking around? He's like, there's 3,500 milligrams of kratom in there. So I was drinking the equivalent of about 100 to 110 kratom drinks a day. Wow. So I was poisoning myself. So basically, I had to detox off of this. So this is me. I'm a sober guy, right? I recorded a bunch of these videos and put them on my YouTube.
Yeah, just to document.
Documented them in chronological order, for God only knows what's going to happen. But I've actually now helped a few people get off of them because of the videos. So they're doing what they're supposed to do, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm drinking these, So I find that out. And of course, I'm a sober guy, minus this. So I said, fuck this. I'm stopping drinking these right now. And I knew it was going to be tough. But I'd never actually really experienced withdrawals. So I'm reading all this bad shit online. I just stopped reading it because I'm like, man, this is bad. Yeah. I'm about to go through some shit right now. My wife was kind of giving me shit. She didn't know any better, but she was like, man, you're detoxing off of kratom. It's not heroin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was bad.
But it'll affect you. And you don't think about what's in all these drinks because people drink all these energy drinks and stuff. And, if you drink too much of that, you're not supposed to drink a bunch of them. And I know people that drink them back to back.
Oh, my God. This was... Dude, the same withdrawal symptoms as opiate withdrawals. My bones hurt. I couldn't sleep. I'm sweating. I couldn't eat. I took 10 hot showers in one day. It was bad. I couldn't eat. It was just bad. I was on the couch. I had ice pack on my head. Then I'd be too cold. Then I'd be too hot. And it's and then I'm literally watching videos of opiate withdrawals online, and I'm experiencing the same thing because that amount of kratom, for those that don't know, that's why kratom gets a bad rap because of kratom extract. The plant itself gets a bad rep, but the kratom extract is they're taking it and they're turning it into these shots like OPMS and these things that you can buy at gas stations. Some people call it gas station heroin. Is because, and me the whole time, because it's a different type of shot. They advertise one thing, they're obviously doing another. Yeah. I had accidentally turned myself into an addict of this shit, So now I'm a big advocate against them. But I guess I don't remember how this was tying to what we were saying, but when that lifted this year, it was just a coincidence that I had just started a relationship with God for the first time in my life, by the way. And I didn't know if I even really believed in God up to that point. It was the nice thing to say of like, you know, bow your head in a prayer or something like that. But I didn't know if I even believed in God.
Yeah.
So I started a relationship with God. I got out of the public company, and I kicked these Filfrees at the same time. So then this was the first New Year's ever that I said, this is going to be a different year, and really, really meant it, because I was like, fuck this. I feel like I just wasted a year of my life, and we got one shot at this. Well, that's where I think we're going. So we got one body, we got one shot.
Yeah.
And I go, I just set myself back a whole year because of this shit. So now my focus is intensified. My love for what I do is intensified. The relationships, the people that I got to not only prove to myself, but prove to them that like, hey, like you've been in my corner and for a good reason, you know what I mean? And so this year's like, there's no breaks, you know what I mean? It's all gas this year. Yeah. I'm going to make a lot of people probably even feel uncomfortable, because it's like, if it doesn't make sense, you know, if it's not something that benefits financially, emotionally, and helps the group, the overall the cause of what we're doing, then it's just not there. Like, it's just not going to be on the plate. Like, you know what I mean? And so
selective.
Yeah, selective, you know what I mean?
So the other thing you've got going is the consulting, the Enter the Cannabis Space. So how's that? Tell us
well,
about
we've
that.
changed the name. So Enter the Cannabis Space was a working title. I always knew it was. It's but we were actually it's Weed Biz now.
Weed
so
Biz,
it's Weed Biz, WEEDBIZZ.
Okay.
Because it was my personal brand, Reed Biz, is kind of funny, because over the last 13 years, that's always been like what I put on bank accounts and everything.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
people always feel like
Catchy.
it sounds like Weed Biz. So then I just changed it to Weed Biz. So it's still, you know, so that is honestly a very interesting thing that kind of fell into place. I was always doing consulting for people. I just never really named it.
Yeah.
And so what I realized is that, you know, I sat down and really looked at what was working and what wasn't working in the cannabis industry for us anymore. I wanted to start leaning into the things that were working. And I noticed that, actually, a friend of mine, Malcolm, he's a successful consultant. He told me, Joe, like, stop giving away your time. You know what I mean? Because you're barely charging. You're not even charging these people. And then they're going out and they're either fucking things up because they don't see the value. They didn't pay for it, so they're not listening to you, because why? It's just advice from a friend. If you start charging for this, they're going to take it a little bit more serious. So I kind of took a consulting business that was making me on average about $3,000 a month, which is not bad considering that wasn't my main gig.
Yeah.
And then I think that, I don't even want to really put a number on it, but I can tell you this. Have you ever seen the show like Undercover Billionaire?
Yeah, I think so.
It's an interesting premise. Grant Cardone, a lot of people know who Grant Cardone is, and he was on that show. Grant Cardone the premise is they take a billionaire and they drop him in a city that they're unfamiliar with, somewhere in the country. I tell my wife all the time, it's funny because this is a weird tie-in. I just put two and two together, because I've always told my wife I think I could do that show, is that you take $100, a phone with no contacts in it other than to your wife. They drop you in a city and you have a car, not even a nice car. It's like a truck and shit. They pick like a truck for both of you. It's like a truck, $100 and a cell phone with no contacts, and you have 90 days to either build a company to $1 million valuation, or you have to donate $1 million to a charity.
Wow.
And almost all of them do it. Grant Cardone fucking killed it. He built in 90 days a company was worth like $10 million.
Wow.
I mean, if you didn't think that he was the real deal before that, and you thought he was this bullshit on Instagram,
that's crazy.
Watch the show. It's like he built a marketing company too, but that's what he does. He's a face of marketing. He just did what he did, but in another in a town that had like 3,000 people in it, like, that's funny. And so we officially started Enter Cannabis Space. You remember it because we did that like short podcast episode. So we started Enter Cannabis Space, but we wanted to make sure that we did not have our shit together when we started it. I was going through a partnership dispute at the time. I was going through a public company. I'm on fucking Filfrees. It was bad timing. Yeah. But I knew I was smart enough to start something, and we were already kind of doing it. So instead of me being the operator on the cannabis side, I said, if you have a few bucks, you can get a license these days, but you don't know how to run that shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I said, the thing is once I'm clear-headed and once I'm the best version of me, I can help you scale your business. And not only I can help you, but if I build a strong enough team that is good in all areas of what you need, from design to creative to licensing, compliance, legal, all of that, brand development, is that we can help you with, that cannabis dream that most people don't have. I mean, that most people have lost. You know what I mean? We could like I said on the episode, we can help you with that.
Yeah.
And so, you don't need to be a license holder to even participate. Like, we can help you we're helping a couple people go through the licensing process right now. And then so long story short, we took a company from conception. I think that we did that episode in November or something like that. We did that little podcast to where I'm almost positive that if I had an evaluation right now, it'd be worth $1 million company already, and so that's kind of a scary thought, because if I wasn't careful, I would just maintain the accounts I have, and they're paying us consulting fee every month. But I'm I wouldn't say crazy, but maybe slightly interesting to where that I have such a hefty goal on where I want the company to go this year, to where I'm not going to be satisfied until that, if I haven't put a number on the evaluated part of it, but I can say that if you're going off of like a 10 times, I thought that was an alarm. That it was a wrap. That's it.
No.
But
That's it. Okay.
I want to turn this into if you were going off of a 3-time multiple to be evaluated, I'd like to be somewhere around the $10 to $12 million valuation by the end of the year.
Nice.
And then consulting is a weird thing to do too, because you're just lending what's upstairs to other people. You know what I mean? But if you can go into something, not just this, there's a bunch of bullshit online coaches. You see them all over the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed to have been in a cigar club with a very successful online coach that's actually kind of helped me avoid some of the pitfalls of going into what you would call a coaching program with all these other places.
Yeah.
And even he, even he's looked at what we're doing and said, like, hey, we need to get you on our platform. You know what I mean? Because, like, no one's doing this shit. Yeah. He even said, I thought cannabis was saturated in bullshit. He's like, you're helping people. And he's like, dude, get on my platform. Because I think he even sees the value. He said, I charge, somebody $30,000 a month. He said, I charge somebody $30,000, 20 to 30 grand to help them build a platform to help coach people. He goes, I'll do all of that shit for free, and I'll give you an office in my building. I want 20%. So obviously for somebody that successful to say, like, hey, I'll bring you on, and I want 20%, I'll help you scale your shit to the masses, we're obviously on a pretty good track. You know what I mean? And what we're doing, so we just got to stay focused. And then we're having some growing pains right now, but I was telling Pete, it's like, dude, it could be worse. Growing pains. The word growing is the key part of that. Right. We're growing, so we have growing pains. We just locked into a new lease at a new office, and then we're already looking for potentially like a second, what we were talking about, second office for some administrative stuff. Yeah. I don't know. It's just crazy, man. This consulting shit is weird because, I used to watch a consulting show on like USA or something like that. I don't remember what it was called, but it had like, what's that? Don Cheetah, I think, was in it or something.
Oh, okay.
And they were consultants, and I said, that's a fucking scam. Who would do that? Like, go buy a book. And now I'm a somewhat full-time consultant.
No
you know
one
what I mean?
wants to read the book.
Nobody wants to read the book. Jeez, man. I'm even bad with that. Ebooks have got me so lazy, man. I'm reading the 48. My buddy Charles tells me I need to read the he said, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that you haven't read the 48 Laws of Power because of how you talk. And he's all, but it's scary because then you'll look at people differently. Yeah. My wife,
you weaponize it.
Weaponize it. My wife has the book. Oddly enough, she was like, "I have that book." And I was like, "Oh shit!" It's a good book. I haven't read a page of it, but I'm about halfway through the ebook. So I went on Audible and downloaded it, and it's very interesting because it's like I've already applied so many of those things. Because I don't. Again, maybe it's the sobriety. Maybe it's just me. I don't go into. There's a part in there that says if you're going to stab somebody, do it with a velvet glove on. Like, this is about that. I started this year with, pissed off at people that had done me wrong last year, counted me out, went behind my back and did shit. And I tried to make amends with some of these people, and, it didn't work. Yeah. So this year, I started the year wrong. I started blasting. I started doing shit that, I thought would have been petty before. I started blasting stupid shit online. Like, fuck you guys. Fuck you haters. Man, I'm fucking 45 years old, and I don't have anything to prove to anybody. And then, and then I said, you know what? The best revenge is success, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll just build something, show people. And then again, most people won't even like that. And what makes me tick a lot of times is, I don't need to prove shit to people at this point in my life, but it helps me. It's they say, people say weird shit it's like the tears of my haters fucking fuel me or whatever. I don't believe in that necessarily, but it does, we never really got to my childhood, but I feel like I'm still running from that broke ass kid that lived on a dirt floor in Muscogee, California, which most people don't even know unless you're from San Bernardino area. I feel like I'm still running from that kid. I don't want to ever be back and be that kid again. I'll never fucking be that kid again. I'll never live in a trailer park in Muscogee again. Yeah. I would have really had to give it up on myself or get a traumatic brain injury or some shit and everyone leaves me in order for that to happen. But the thing is that, I was, I was always smaller than my brother. I was never the smartest in school. I was a white kid that grew up in a minority neighborhood. You know what I mean? So it's like I always had something to prove. Yeah. If I wrestled, I had to be the best wrestler, or I had to outwork everybody. I've always had to outwork everybody. And so, for the people that doubted me last year and or just throughout my whole career, I feel like I need those people, more than they realize. So it's like, I think the thing that pisses people off, maybe it don't piss people off. Maybe I'm even looking too much into it. Maybe they don't fucking care. But the thing is that
it's your motivation.
It's my motivation. It's my motivation to make them a little uneasy enough to where they'll call somebody else and say, "Did you see that this motherfucker's doing now?"
If they ever look this way.
If they ever look this way, you know what I mean?
They're gonna know.
And so the thing is that I almost bought a town. That's not to say that I'm some baller that can go buy towns. I almost bought a town in Nipton because it was for sale, and I was gonna put some money down and finance it. And I told my buddy, I said, man, if I buy a fucking town, you think the haters that hate me now are not going to fucking hate me even more? As they say, that motherfucker bought a town. You know what I mean? I ended up not buying the town because I would have had to form a...
seeing that too.
I remember I would have had to form a government, and I would have had to do all... My parents were even committed to moving there. You know what I mean? And I had my friend at the time, Sober Junkie, he's a musician. He's like, dude, I'll be the mayor. I'm like... That's cool. I'm having an ex-heroin addict named Sober Junkie as the mayor of the town, you know what I mean? But it was, it's been an interesting, to kind of use those people for motivation, and maybe that's wrong, man. Depending, I'm in recovery. I can't say I'm really in the program. They say to leave it to a higher power and just it's out of your hands, but that's where I kind of differ, with most of the people in the program. With that too, sorry, because dude, I'm not too weak to overcome all this shit myself.
Yeah, it's my fault. I accept responsibility.
It's my fault. I just listened to Theo Von's podcast. You know what I mean? Earlier, and he had Kat Von D on there. That's an interesting, very interesting, because I love Theo Von, and Kat Von D. I've always been a fan of Kat Von D. I don't know a lot about her, but she grew up in Loma Linda. We had mutual friends and shit like that, and I knew her sister a little bit. And I'm not a fan of Kat Von D necessarily. I'm not a fanboy of Kat Von D, but I appreciate that she came from nothing. You have to appreciate that she came from nothing and has built a personal brand. And the thing is that they were talking about Christianity and things like that, and they said that a lot of people use Christianity just so they have an invisible person to blame for all their problems. Yeah. But that's a fucked up way of looking at it. Yeah. At some point, you got to take responsibility for your own shit. You know what I mean? And so it's that's for me. I don't blame any of these people that are motivating me to be more successful this year than I was last year. I blame myself. Yeah. So it comes off as that I'm blaming these people, but maybe I'm blaming them as a person, that they could have been a little bit more easy on the situation or talk through some problems with me. Yeah. But it's my fault. I put myself in that situation. You know what I mean?
And if they had, you maybe wouldn't have experienced the amount of success that you have.
Oh, I will prove every motherfucker wrong unless I just can't function. Unless something happens where my brain doesn't work anymore, I'll prove 95% of people wrong that doubt me. I had somebody yesterday tell me I was delusional and where I'm going with the consulting company. I said, cool, let's see how delusional I am come Christmas. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I already know what I can do. If I'm focused, the problem now is that I'm balancing is that I'm in a loving relationship. Before I could just work my ass off. I'll work till I wake up to go sleep, and people say, my best friend one time told me, you need a hobby. I paint graffiti, obviously, which is a whole weird story in itself. Yeah. I paint graffiti, and I have a hobby. But I said, this is my fucking hobby. No, he said that. He goes, dude, I realized you don't need a hobby. You have a hobby. You work. That's what you do. That's you fucking work.
That's my hobby.
Yeah. Do you consider this work when you come here? No. It's like the same shit. Like when I'm consulting, I was at breakfast today. I had a pleasant conversation with an old friend that's getting into the industry that's going to sign a consulting deal with me. I'm going to make money from that. I got to hang out with a friend. It's not work.
Yeah.
And I picked up breakfast. So, yeah, I was out $40 this morning plus tip. But who cares? Like, you know what I mean? It's not work, you know, to me.
Yeah.
And so
that's
yeah.
important. I make that change. That's what I did. Like everything that I enjoy doing, it turns into work. I guess you could call it work, but I just figure out ways to try to make it to create value, you know.
Thanks for everybody watching. I keep forgetting, which is probably good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I don't even know what's going on mine.
Yeah, that's
can't
cool.
see none of that.
I tried to zone that out, and then I saw like a flash, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm live."
There's
So
people
hopefully, I'm not saying dumb shit on the spot. So,
Guys.
but
yeah, it's so. Let's see. Yeah, we covered now weed biz.
I think, unless you're opposed to this, like I think again, so we're not taking up maybe all the time, is that on like the success side of things, unless you want to go into something else that I'm doing, but I think if I can give back in any way, like I said, I can help anybody start and scale a business. Is that like there's kids out there, and this is like a cliche thing to say too, because you know kids, you know, if kids don't have to look too far to find positive role models these days because we have the internet. But I would say that like, you know, there was a time that, you know, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with my life, obviously. I had a kid when I was young and stuff. So I had a kid when I was young. I was breaking the law all the time. I wasn't like on heavy drugs, but I was smoking a lot of weed. I was drinking at a young age. I was fighting. I was already tattooed like in young age and shit, you know. And so, but there's a lot of people out there, whether they're young kids or they're in their situation now, and they have no fucking idea how to get out of it. Like my wife made a comment one time that like if someone gets sober, that's only the beginning. Like, what are you going to do after you get sober? Like, you know what I mean? What if you do grow up in Moscow, California, and you don't know what to do? Where do you go? What fucking resources are actual real resources, or if they're a resource that some politician or some, like, public official's not padding their wallet with, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that, you know, like, my story, you know what I mean, is, like, it's there's a lot of kids out there with no hope. There's a lot of people out there with no hope, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I grew up in a pretty fucked up situation growing up, you know what I mean? And I was raped as a kid. You know, my brother and I were both raped as a kid, and I didn't even talk about that for a lot of years because, again, I had a lot of guilt, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it happened repeatedly. So it would be one thing that happened once. Well, it wouldn't be one thing that happened once. It just makes it it puts a little extra cherry on the top when it happened multiple times and you trusted this person, you know? Yes. And then, you know, I think the first time I openly talked about that, I was like mid-30s. You know what I mean? Like I would only talk about that with people that knew that it had happened, and that was a very small amount of people. Yeah. And so, but the thing is that I personally believe that even stuff like that you can use as fuel. You know what I mean? To like fuel you and do. And
wear it as armor, right? In Game of Thrones, he's like, you wear it as armor.
Oh yeah, I do.
That's the thing, and that's kind of touching on that. Like we talked about all the success, all the big things. And you kind of mentioned it goes back to the childhood, and that was kind of the thought of this podcast is like everybody that has experienced some success, whatever that means to you, comes from somewhere, and it's not always easy.
Oh man,
and that's I've been saying since last year. It may not always be easy, but it's always worth it. You know, and like no matter what, everything that I've gone through, there's times where I felt like it was hopeless, and like how am I going to do this? What am I going to do next? And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, and you as well, have felt that way. So in talking about this, like we talked about all these good things, but then now the bad things start to come out.
Those are the important. That's the meat.
That's the fuel. That's the meat. That's the
meat. I 100%. This is harder than it sounds. Is that you have to fucking change the way that you think about yourself. Yeah. Chris, that was on the last episode of my podcast, he said that when he started loving himself, he learned how to love other people or look at yourself, give yourself some value. Yeah. And I don't think I ever had a problem with like believing in myself, but like actually believing that I was worthy enough to like teach other people. That was like hard for me. And so I think that I think the biggest part that's helped me is that realizing that one, like I can do whatever the hell I want, and taking certain words even out of your vocabulary. Like I told my sister today, she said, "I guess," and I was like, "Stop saying I guess," because that don't mean shit. Because it's exactly what it is. It's a guess. Yes. Or when people say, "Well, I'm trying," there's no fucking trying. Dude. I don't care if you're 500 pounds, alcoholic. No fucking car, no job. Like you can turn that shit around. I mean, you know, I have a relative right now that's going through some shit with addiction, used to live in a tent, this and that. I met with him. He's like, I just don't think I'm ever going to get my life back. And I go, then you've already failed.
Yeah.
I would not drive 2 hours to come out here and meet with you. I don't have time to do this shit. If I didn't believe that you can turn this around, I wouldn't be here right now. So you can turn it around. But then that goes back to and you talk about challenges. The biggest challenge is getting past that and then figuring out like what the next step is. That next step is the most crucial part of the whole transformation. Yeah. And that's usually the part that gives you the growing pains and you learn the most about yourself and what you're made out of. Like it's really what separates people that you follow and like on Instagram and admire their sayings and actually respect what they're doing versus the people that are like what I call entrepreneurs that will just always be the guy that says, I can do this, I can do that, but don't accomplish shit. Yes. You know what I mean? And so believe it or not, even though I talk my ass off all the time, like I'm a man of like many words when it comes to business. Like I have people that will message me and they'll text me and shit like that, and I'm very short answered with things because I believe that most of the time you just got to work on the solution and not the problem. What's the saying that, you know, the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield for a reason. Yeah. So when you talk about like the struggles, I think the easiest way to get from point A being like the decision to change things and point B of like actually making that change is finding somebody that's already done it. And most of the time people are willing to give back. You know what I mean? If they don't, then they're an asshole. Like, I mean, honestly, because even at my worst, like the height of me being an asshole, like I still I'd still take the time to like at least point somebody to the right resource, you know? Yes. And so, find somebody that's doing what, I mean, it's simple, and we've probably all heard this all over heard this our whole life. If you want to be an astronaut, when you're a kid, they said, oh, you want to be an astronaut, then go to school to be an astronaut, or like learn from an astronaut, read books about astronauts. It's like, you should study and do as much study. You should make that like your hobby. You should make that your life. When I start, it's something as simple as like, I've never claimed to be like the best graffiti painter. I don't care, because I want everything that I paint to look like it was fun when I painted it. You know what I mean? So, but if I wanted to be, I'm pretty confident that I could probably be pretty dope at it. But why? I never plan on having a career in graffiti. Like, you know what I mean? It's just something I do for fun. It's for fun. You know what I mean? So, but if I wanted to, you know what I mean? Just like this year, I have some health goals. Like, I want to look a certain way. I've never really thought about that other than just losing the weight and getting fit. I've never thought about how I wanted to look in the mirror. Yeah. My wife don't complain. She might be complaining in her head, but I don't know. She don't complain. So it's like, who do I have impressed? But I have myself to impress. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of a bold statement, and maybe people will think it's a douchebag statement. But I want to get jacked this year. Like, I want to get bigger. Good. Like, you know what I mean? Because I've just never done that before. So what's the next challenge? I've ran. I don't remember. I've ran. Well, technically, I've done a half marathon, but I didn't run the whole time. So I've done things fitness wise. I've accomplished things I didn't think I'd accomplish, but I've never been the guy that looks in the mirror and go like, man, that dude's in good fucking shape. Like, and that's what I want to do this year. Yeah. So I've started changing my thinking towards that. Good. But what am I going to do? I'm not going to go to the gym and ask the guy that's having problems walking on the treadmill how to do that. Yeah. I'm going to talk to my buddy Charles. I'm going to talk to my brother. I'm going to talk to people that have already done that. Yeah. So it's the same with anything. When people, you know, there's two ways of looking at this. If people reach out to me and say like, hey, what's your advice? I'm going to spend some time giving them some free advice on how to connect themselves with somebody to help avoid some of those pitfalls. And then ultimately, obviously, I'm a consultant, so I'll consult. If it's somebody that's a business that, like, I'm meeting with a business tomorrow that they're closing about 6 or 7 deals a week. As soon as I talked to him, I said, I know exactly how you can double, triple your business. And it's only because they're so stuck in the way they're thinking that it needs an outsider to come in and say, like, look, why don't you offer this service? I almost fucking told him it over the phone. And I was like, wait a minute. This is worth at least a couple $1,000s a month for me to help him do this. You know what I mean? So, again, but that being said, if the guy didn't have the money, if the guy was just starting off, the guy just hawked everything he could to start this business, I'd give him some free advice, because like I've started successful businesses, you know what I mean? And sometimes you got to remove your fucking ego out of it. Like, I got people that have businesses right now that I know that I can come in and turn their whole business around, and I'd probably do it for equity. But they're so fucking stuck and thinking that they know everything to where I just don't even bring it up. Yeah. You know, and it sucks because I've seen some of those businesses go out of business before. Yeah. You know, it's like people are so. I tell people all the time that you will step over a $500 to chase an imaginary $1,000. You know what I mean? Just, it's like, take the opportunities, learn from them, take your bumps, you know what I mean, and move on. But I guess the short version of this whole thing that I just said is that find somebody that's where you want to be at and listen to every fucking word that they say. If they say read this book, if it makes no sense, they read a book on like how flies feast off shit, read it, because there's got to be a reason.
There's
unless
a
they're
connection.
just an asshole, which I doubt they're going to waste your time doing that.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, you know what I mean, like, dude, you're what the heck? That's weird.
Might have ended
How did that happen?
with the time. Is it limited?
That's weird. Let's do this.
Yeah, sometimes you run out of. If it's like
Oh.
maxed at 30 minutes or something.
Oh, it is?
Maybe some
Where
of
you
them,
at?
some of them do that.
I'm just going to do this again. Why not?
Yeah,
People are like, actually, we're leaving
What
good
happened?
comments. But,
that's cool. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that it's definitely important. They say you're the sum of your 5 closest friends, right? And that kind of ties into that. Like, if you're around a bunch of knuckleheads, you're gonna do knucklehead stuff.
I didn't even understand that comment when I was younger until I got older.
Yeah. So if you put yourself around successful people, you know, if what that they compare, I've seen the post, like if 4 of your friends are millionaires, you're probably going to be a millionaire or whatever,
Mhm.
you know.
You might not be the 5th, but you'd be in that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And yet it puts you around people with different goals and visions and things that are relating. And you, like I keep saying, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you know. And everybody wants to, like, I know when I was young, I'm like, I know better. And people would tell me, and I'm like, I don't want to listen,
Mhm.
you know. But
There's
then-
also something to be said about reinventing the wheel, though,
yeah.
because we're in a different world than our parents were in business.
True.
Because for years, you shouldn't have even thought about reinventing the wheel. Some parts of success, and this is where it's hard, because this is like you're feeling in a dark hallway, blindfolded. Like, you know what I mean? You got to feel around and see how it is.
Yeah.
Some things are worth being fixed, and then some things don't reinvent the wheel. Like, if you were to ask my pops, who's done very well successfully, like, and again, like, my dad died when I was young, alcohol issues. My mom died from drug-related issues, but then my ex-wife's parents kind of took me in, and I consider them my parents.
Mm-hmm.
He's been successful in everything he's done. He could have even been more successful, but he actually did very well balancing the family and business.
Yeah.
And he used to tell me all the time, don't reinvent the wheel. It's the way we do things. But looking back, or even now, if I went to him, even though he was successful in what he did, and say, like, look, what do you think about my consulting business? Or what do you think about my kava bar? Or something like, he'd give me completely different advice than what I'm doing. I guarantee it. Because he's so stuck in the way that business was done, where I had to realize about a couple years ago to where I no longer can go to him for business advice because I've passed the level of success that he got me there. I'll always respect what he did, but
Yeah.
you don't go to a dentist when you want your car worked on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
that's
they
true.
might be able to say, like, yeah, dude, I think you need an oil change. But that's just like anybody else that's giving you their opinion. I think it's funny when people make less money than me and try to tell me how to make money. Like,
Yeah.
of course, I'm going to respect their opinion because maybe I'm not seeing something.
Yeah.
But there's no fucking way. Like me, when I go to the gym and I see somebody not as in shape as I am, unless it's something that has to do with maybe like running shoes or something, I'm not going to take their advice on how to lose weight. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. But I think that in every single thing I've done, and I respect the statement, don't reinvent the wheel, but in this day and age with AI, technology, everybody competing in the same space, if you don't have some sort of niche, like, you know what I mean, then you're just like everybody else. Then they're literally just going to pull your name out of a hat. You got to, like, be better
Yeah, you gotta
than them.
innovate.
You got to innovate. And you have to kind of reinvent the wheel sometimes.
That's true.
You know?
I think with that, like reinventing, maybe it's for like the fundamentals, you know, because we talked about all the people, how you can go in. I came up with a nickname for you the other day just to
Oh,
say,
shit.
the multiplier, because I was talking
The
about, you were telling me
multiplier.
about the pools and stuff, and I was like,
Oh,
this
my
guy.
God, man.
But
That's
I-
actually pretty funny, man.
And then-
That might be in my my bio tomorrow. I don't know.
And I was like, let's call it the multiplier. But again, to apply that thought process, you know, because new eyes come in, they look at something and they can, you know, see things you should change. But some businesses, if they're doing it and they're not successful, maybe they don't have the fundamentals. You know, they don't take care of the books. They don't
You're
take
right.
care of the practices. They're not up. They're not, like we talked about health and the things you put in, it's going to change the way you're thinking, your cognitive ability, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, we covered a lot of different topics, but it all kind of feeds into the same thing of consistency and practices that build fundamentals and a foundation.
100%.
Then from there you can innovate. But if you innovate and you got no foundation, it doesn't matter.
It's funny because I hope I can shed some light on that because you're right. So there's the what did I used to call it? I call it the boring shit now, but that's not the professional term for it.
Mhm.
The non-revenue generating aspect of a business are the fundamentals, I think, that will never change.
Yeah.
Like, so for instance, you're always going to need a good accountant
Yes.
and bookkeeper. You're always going to need a good bookkeeper, a good accountant. And sorry, I think my phone's dying. I wasn't prepared for this. Just kidding. No. You're always going to need a good bookkeeper. You're always going to need, in this day and age, you're going to need a good designer, creative director. You're going to need a good manager, like overseer, controller, some people call them. You're always going to need those in a lot of cases, those are non-revenue generating positions.
Yeah.
They help organize the money. They're the money counters, you know what I mean? The bean counters is what they've been called, you know?
Yeah.
But when it comes to getting your product to market and getting your business to market, like you're going to need to create a niche. It's almost impossible not to these days. Like the common thing that I get right now with the consulting business, the weed biz, is that why are you charging so little for so much of a service? Well, in my opinion, I want people to be like, holy shit, I'm getting so much value. It's like a business in a box. It's like those mail order boxes right now. You know what I mean?
It's a whole plan.
It's a whole
Everything's
thing.
covered.
It's a whole plan. So we want everything, dude. We even are now partnering with a notary because some people will say like, dude, I'd feel more comfortable if we notarize this. Well, what do I have to do? To fucking call a notary. I have to find a notary.
Here's one I recommend.
Now notary's going to be right next door to my office. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
You build all the pieces to the puzzle.
it even goes as far as like the office that I picked will have the boardroom there. And it's like, I don't necessarily need a boardroom, but the thing is that I want my consulting clients, I want them to be able to feel like they can come there and be at home. If they're bringing in an investor, if they're bringing in a new customer, I want to be like, okay, cool, let's book you out, treat this as your home, come in, put your damn pictures on the wall, I don't care, just come in and then utilize our offices to basically pitch deck or whatever you're going to do.
That's good.
And we're all packaging this under, a low enough cost to where, it's a no-brainer. I had a guy yesterday threaten to cancel, and I said, okay. And he called me back 30 minutes later. Said, dude, I want to still work with you. I already knew what he did. He tried to call probably somebody else that would do it cheaper, and they were like, bro, no, call the dude back. And then I got him back in 10 minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, that's that. The fundamentals. It's like that. I've heard people compare. It's like when you bake an apple pie. You don't just get a bunch of stuff and start mushing it in a bowl. Like you get the recipe, and then you can tweak it if you want. But that's where the basics of business and fundamentals.
That's funny that you mentioned that because I feel like at this point, if you've done something successful, you've done one or two things somewhat successful, you can almost get your ingredients. Cooking, I can cook my ass off. Like I'm a pretty good cook, and I feel the same way.
Yeah,
I've done so many times. I've gotten in the kitchen and thought I'm going to do one thing, and then realize I'm too lazy to go to the store to get something else, and then turn it into something else.
Yeah,
that's business.
Yeah,
like what I mean. If you're able to pivot and pivot fast, some people can do that. And some people, I met with the guy this morning. He's like, I just want to feel this out for 3 months, and I go, then you've already set yourself up for failure. You need to learn how to make a move, make it fast, and because a person like me is willing to help you, guide you to not end up in the gutter doing it, you need to take that opportunity. And of course that was very sales pitchy, but it was the truth. It's the truth. It's not sales when it's sales, but it's the truth. It makes it the sale. You can swallow that pill a little bit more,
I was saying that at work the other day because you hear people, I'll do better when I get better, or I'll do more when I get
That's
more.
bullshit.
It doesn't work
That's bullshit. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And people are so fucking delusional. I got a guy that literally told me the other day that the reason that he doesn't have a job is because he doesn't have an ID.
Right.
Well, and I'm like,
that's funny.
What the fuck? That's the crazy.
They'll justify their
you can justify anything. You know what I mean? It's like I justify shit. That car that I don't love, it's grown on me. The Tesla outside, there's damage to the bottom of the car. I have a fucking warranty that I pay every month. In the last 5 months, that damage has been there, and I justify it by I don't have time.
Yeah,
I made time to come do this, so I obviously got time to drop off the Tesla at the dealership. I can justify anything.
See, I would flip that, and that's I pick my sacrifice.
Yeah. You're right. You know what I mean? So it's funny, man. But I mean, we've covered a bunch of stuff, man. This has been kind of cool. I don't really get a chance, other than people that. I shouldn't say people that walk the walk, but I have these I only like to associate with people. It sounds kind of bad, but I only like to associate with people that I can have intelligent conversations with. And I used to think that like I just outgrew my friends. And I did. I feel like I finally realized I did some of them because, like, if I can't sit down and have an intelligent conversation, like an intelligent conversation, not some shit about what happened in the past or some shit that reminiscing an intelligent conversation. Like, I don't need that shit. Like, especially some of my memories. Like, that part of me is dead. Is that I don't like to have those conversations. Like, I can, you know what I mean? Like, I just.
Where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do? Like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to rack up 365 winning days this year. What day is this? Like 24th?
24, I think.
So as of yesterday, I'm not even keeping track of the calendar days, but as of yesterday, so all year I've been marking it into my calendar with a W or an L. I almost got an L.
Nice.
About a week.
Not about the L, but that's cool.
Yeah, a week and a half ago, I almost got an L. Like I went through some shit. Like, so it's an interesting licensing debacle. You know, I had started working with one licensed company doing it was a consulting deal that kind of went bad, and I had the opportunity to wait till the next day to fix it or drive to LA. I go to sleep at like 9:30 at night. So I knew that if I went to LA, I wouldn't even leave LA till probably 10. And I wanted to come back because I wanted to be in bed with my wife. I wanted to be home. And I said, fuck, this is going to suck. I don't really drink a lot of coffee anymore, but I drank 3 shots of espresso and drove to LA. Because I said, I'm not starting a fucking year with an L. Like, it's not going to happen. So
do it now.
So everyone's like, dude, are you crazy, dude? You're going to be so tired. And this, and I said, well, you guys can sleep for me because I got to do this. And so I came home. It was very rewarding that when I changed, like, and I was getting ready to go to bed, I changed, like, my wife and I, we love each other, obviously, and we sleep together. Like, we're married. It's a solid marriage, but she has her room and I have my room. We sleep in the same room, but her room, like, it's just because of, I think, the amount of shit that we just both own. Like, I have my office that has all my clothes in it and everything, and so I'm in there changing. My fucking cat's annoying me, all this other stuff, and then I almost forgot, and then I said, I drove to LA to make sure that I won today, so I marked the calendar with a win, and that shit alone, like, sets you up for the next day, you know what I mean? Because you're like, fool, I won 11 days in a row. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to have 3. So I don't give a shit. So I'm going to lose a lot of sleep this year because there's going to be days, because it's unrealistic to think that you're not going to have days that you lose that day. It's just unrealistic. Yeah. But, you know, it's like one of my first mentors that I didn't realize was a mentor till later on was my wrestling coach. And he said, you know, to have a personal best wrestling season, you need to have a personal best practice. And then you need to have a personal best week of practice. And then back then it's just some dude preaching to you because he wants to win a title, but it was like, you know, it's like, it's true though. It sticks to you know what I mean? It sticks to you, you know.
That's that what can be measured can be improved, you know?
Yes, that's good. I've heard that one too.
Yeah,
you know?
That's good. Yeah, I got a new dot. It's like graph paper, but it's dots, and I'm using that as my daily planner. Right, I'll show you after. But it's working great, and I like pack my days, and like the first month is the first page, and it's just bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, you need to show me that.
Like this is
that's not. Oh, that's
really
not what
cool.
you're writing in, but
this is my old one. But I got the new one. I'll show it to you.
That's cool.
But just packing it in, you know, trying to get this stuff up and running, and
how do you feel about taking notes? I know that's kind of sidebar. Like, how do you feel about going into a meeting with a notepad and taking notes?
You see, I got my little.
Do you ever reference back your notes?
I do.
I never do.
Once in a while.
I carry a notepad the last 20 years. And I realized the other day, unless I'm scrambling around to find a note that I jotted down of an account number or something.
Yeah.
I just realized this yesterday. I don't know why the hell I bring notepad. Because anything important I can just put in my phone as a calendar reminder or something.
Yeah, I struggle with that though, because the gadget's like, it's all ding, and then you're like, oh, and then I forget. Like when in mid-conversation, I'm like, what was I talking about? So even if I'm trying to do something important and then it's like notification, then I forget. You know, so the paper to me is good. I'm guilty of that because I've got all this stuff in here, and a lot of times I don't.
You look
back.
more organized. If I showed you the shit show that's going on in my notepad, you wouldn't even know what's going on. And what I went through the other day and wrote, you know what I wrote in there? Spicy chicken. What the fuck was so important about spicy chicken that the whole page just said spicy chicken on it? I obviously maybe had an idea for something, or I was talking on the phone because I do business with a chef out there that does chicken. Like I don't know what it was, but I just realized I'm probably not taking. I know that looks disrespectful because they say if you come to a meeting and not take notes, you don't respect the speaker or whatever, or the meeting. I have a fucking phone.
Yeah.
I type pretty quick. You know what I mean? I'm just going to probably take it on my phone. And I'm pretty good. I have ADHD. And most people know me for 5 minutes know that. if I don't set reminders for shit, you know, because you've fallen victim of me not showing up to shit because I forget to put it in my phone. It's like, I have to, dude. Now, because this year I'm trying to win every day, I set 3 reminders I set 15, well, I put an hour or 2 out, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and sometimes even time of event, so I don't remember it. So if I do hear it, I've been annoyed at my own phone more than ever this year because it's like, fuck, okay. Like, you know what I mean? But it gets me to things, you know?
And that's a good point to bring up, too, because even, you know, all the things we've been through from wherever we've come from, there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
So even those kind of things, like, that's me. This year is new. I got the new planner because, again, I'm inconsistent. You know, I don't keep track.
New year, new you.
Calendar, yeah. So it's just little improvements, and that's just another excuse to try to make those changes.
100%. I posted today, I think, some shit about like the old you has to die or whatever, and I think that
I like that.
I think that
I saw that.
I appreciate it. You know, I think that these statements, they're cool. I don't use them as clickbait. I think people think I do, but when something hits me, I'm like, dude, this could help one person. One person might take something today from that. Yeah. And the thing is that I feel like there's been a rebirth of who I am this year for sure. And then I think that it's going to be hard for me to go this year it would be hard for me, I should say, to go this year with the idea that December rolls back around and I'm watching Home Alone or what I'm doing, going like, I didn't put my full effort into being the best husband, the best version of myself, the best dad, the best, like, I have to be that version. And that means if I need to put 4 reminders in my phone, if I need to wake up early, like today I did not want to get up. Like I slept on the couch is a fucking giant
really
fucking couch.
Yeah.
But my wife's sick, so she's on the couch, and I wanted to spend time with my wife, and it sounds crazy and sappy, so I'm like sleeping on the other side, on the other end of this fucking couch, you know. Yeah. I wake up today and I was very rested, but at the same time I was like, it's dark in the living room and stuff, and I'm like, I just want to stay here, you know what I mean? I don't want to get up. But I said, get the fuck up. Like, what is wrong with you? Get up. You know what I mean? And so I need to make sure that I hold myself accountable, and I think that's another thing. People don't hold themselves accountable. Like I have my sister's in some shit right now, and I don't care if she sees this because she needs tough love. And I tell her, hit me up when she wakes up in the morning, and hits me up at like 11 today. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck? But then she says, I don't have time to work more hours.
Yeah.
Well, if sleep is more important to you, then fucking sleep. You know what I mean? Don't fucking hit me up when your gas bill is late. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
wake up and pay it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know, man, but I know if there's any takeaway, really, I mean, I don't know. That takeaway thing is like, I don't know if that's even the right word, but if there's any advice that I can give anybody that's listened to this, or that I even just tell people, is that, like, you know, you have to change your mentality, like, you know what I mean? And that's even a vague statement. Like, you have to, no matter where you come from. My childhood was like a fucking horror movie. Like, and I don't want anybody to sympathize with that. I don't need messages or anything like that, because I'm past that shit. That was the fuel that got me to where I'm at.
But you have to understand that that's where it came from.
Yeah, my brother deals with it different. My brother, he was dating somebody one time, and I met up with my brother, and I was telling her, they'd been together a while too, about Musko and all this shit. She's like, you've never told me about all this, because he decides to just block it out, and he's good. Yeah. Where I use that, you know what I mean? Like, anytime I felt a little over myself, like I've made good money, I've got a new car, something like that. If I drive, you got to pass Musko to get into California from Vegas. Yeah. It's like the industrial part that no one wants to get to. There's horses and meth, basically, and no street lights. It's like, I drive through there. I drive right by Space Number 2 in what used to be called Highland Mobile Home Park. Now it's some other shit. Yeah. And I drive past there, and even me, I look at it and I go, this is a very, like, I don't know. This is not a very humble statement, but my master bedroom in my house is bigger than the trailer that I grew up in, and that's like some shit that's like, kind of, I have to, like, we don't love the house that we're in right now, but then when I walk around it, I'm like, wow, like, when the fuck did I become this guy? You know what I mean? It's like, when did I not like the $1 million house that I live in or something? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, and so it's, but again, I don't know, because I'm still not really a materialistic guy, so maybe that's where that statement comes from. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's funny. Steve Harvey, I was watching his interview or something, and he was like, talking about how he's blessed and he's grateful, and he was like, I'm not that funny. You know, like some of the rooms I'm sitting in, like, I'm not that funny. Like, you know, and so it's one of those things, the same kind of like the moments you had, like looking around, like, wow, my old house would fit inside this bedroom. Yeah. You know, but it's good. It reminds you, you know.
I sold that trailer when my mom died for $1,000.
Wow.
And I even thought that I ripped the lady off that bought it
Back
even then.
Back then, that was a lot, right?
Well, this was 2000. My mom died in 2003. So it wasn't that long ago, and I sold a trailer that they live in. Those people still live there. I don't talk to them. They might not even remember me by first sight, but we sold it for $1,000. It didn't have skirting. You know how trailers have skirting on it? Like, you know, the skirting on top?
Yeah.
They didn't. My tweaker stepdad had, like, engines and shit underneath that. So he
storage.
needed the storage space. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, the toilet, when you sat on the toilet, if you look to the left between the shower and the toilet, there was mildew there. So at one point, there was you see outside. The only reason that got fixed is because it would get so cold in there that he finally put board over there and drilled it into the floor like that. And so you don't step right there because you could potentially, because of the rot, like fall. And I don't even know if I've even told many people this that part, you know. Yeah. But I reconnected with a buddy of mine through the graffiti world when I first moved back out here, and he said, "Hey, bro, like." Oh, no, this was in Nevada. He said, "Hey, bro, remember when you lived in Moscow and you had that spot where it was dirt floor?" And I said, "Dirt floor?" I said, "I didn't live necessarily on a dirt floor." And then I remembered my stepdad ripped up all the carpet in the trailer. And because people were coming in and out from the dirt outside, there was so much dirt on the floor to where it looked like you had a dirt floor. Yeah. We didn't think much of it because I'm drinking and smoking weed and shit at 13. I ain't fucking care. Like, you know what I mean? That was just normal for me. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, it's like, and yeah, he remembers that. I barely remembered that. You know what I mean?
Crazy. That's crazy. What sticks in your mind.
Yeah, no shit. But I learned how to fight. That's good. It came out of it. No one punked me at a certain point in my life. I think people that even knew they could kick my ass was a little worried because I was the guy that would pick up I picked up like 10-speed handlespears and hit somebody with it one time.
Stubborn enough to fight you.
Yeah. So they would be like, I remember many times people were like, they were gonna pick a fight with me when I was growing up. You know what I mean? My brothers. You ever seen what the hell is the Gallaghers? What the hell is Shameless?
Yeah.
That was like our house. You know what I mean? Like I had a crazy ass upbringing, but I think back on that shit and I was like, man, I just did not care. When you grow up with no consequences, like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, this dude pissed me off. I'm with the handlebars. It's dirty. You know what I mean? But now it's like, I feel like that's helped me in business though, because now I'm down. Like, if you start a fight with me,
line, I will go there.
It'll be different now because it's more of the 48 laws of power kind of mentality. But you know, Art of War, you know, I've listened to that book a lot. I've never actually read that book. I say I've read it 10 times, but I've really listened to it. Different version of it. They have the versions, have the music behind it, and different versions. And I've always looked at it that way, is that I'm more of that. Like, I'd rather, I have a friend, Dez, that for all I know, he's watching the live, Dez, and he's a very successful musician in his own right, and he lives by a lot of those same principles. And he's even had to remind me, like, chill. I know what you're thinking. You don't have to go that route. And I'm like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? It's like, so even coaches need coaches, right? So even I've had to be like, all right, cool. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. There's a saying, it's better to be a warrior in a garden and a gardener in a, warrior in a garden and a gardener in a war. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like,
that's a good one.
I will fight you.
Yeah, that is good, man. That is good.
That's good.
You know, but I just want to give people hope, man. Even if it's one or two people, that's some crazy ass kid that grew up bad, that decided to cover his body with tattoos, swear, and eventually find the Lord and a good wife and things like that. You know what I mean? Anybody can kind of turn things around.
Change it. It's never too late. Yeah, that's the whole idea with this podcast, is just communicating and sharing these stories and getting them out there. You know, and I appreciate you being here. And
I appreciate you too, man.
We will have more to come for sure. You know, we got some projects in the works.
Oh man, definitely. Yeah, we have a couple different things. I'm only hitting my phone because my battery's dying. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, this was very impromptu live that I've never done, but I decided, we were talking about the feature on the phone, and I said, let's try live right now. You know, so thanks. And then thanks for everybody tuning in and supporting me in the last year. Some of you guys, you know what I mean, have been in my corner for a long time, and this year is going to be the year that any type of shit show that I'm not saying that my life was a shit show last year. I should back that up real quick. But I'm saying that last year, definitely nothing
could have been better.
And this year's the year now. The brakes come off. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, for sure.
So before we go, anywhere anybody can find you, if you anything you want to share with that?
Well, I don't want anybody to I'm just kidding. No, so for my Instagram, you know what I mean, personally, and you can DM me, and like I'm pretty good about checking it. Some people I don't even open the messages because I know what they're messaging me about, but it's Reedbiz, REEDBIZ 2.0, because for some reason, I don't know why, it's a 2.0 version of the original thing. ReedBiz 2.0, the consulting company is WeedBiz, WeedBizz. That's just that. And then the most important, I think, of all the projects, well, then my cannabis company is Cali Care Group. I never mentioned that once, which is weird because that's my baby,
That's
you
what
know.
started it.
It's Cali Care Group, and we wanted to name it years ago, something with care in the name, you know. And a friend of mine came up with it. I didn't even come up with the name, so, you know, but it stuck.
Yeah.
Cali Care Group, and then
It was right for the time.
it's an easy website. It's ilovemyweed.com. So to see what kind of we've done,
There it
and there's
is.
a story in there and everything. And then on Instagram, it's at the group loves you, and it was just some way around the algorithm or whatever. And then I think the most important project is my podcast right now, and like the sobriety project.
Mm-hmm.
To find out more about that, it's a little interesting spelling. So you can, the easiest way really to see what we got going on is really jump on the website, and that's it's spelled different. It's RZDXWLVS.com. So it's Raised by Wolves, just spelled differently. So it's RZDXWLVS.com, and that's to help, you know, people get into recovery and, you know, just kind of fix their life, you know, or at least get them on the right path. You know, it's like our wolf pack mentality. And then just a real quick shout out real fast is that, you know, the guys that helped me, you know, in my sobriety in the beginning, kind of like, you know, or like Jimmy, you know what I mean? Obviously my wife, you know what I mean? Later on after I was sober, my wife Adrian, and then my son Joseph, you know, has been a big motivation. And then like Jimmy Monahan, which is watching this or wasn't watching. Well, we'll definitely watch this at some point. Jimmy Monahan's amazing human. Like 4 hours after meeting him, I'm like crying in his office, fucking realizing that like I'm not as cool as I thought and I'm drunk. And then there's Ian Lovelace, which is he's an amazing musician. He's a good friend that I don't talk to enough. You know, we kind of came up with the name Raised by Wolves together. And then there's just been a lot of people along the way, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I got some new partners like Brad and, you know what I mean? Charles, of course, Charles and Heidi. And I don't know, there's a big list of huge supporters. Jeremiah, that's jumped on the live right here, has been a guy that's, you know, he's checked in with me when a lot of people didn't last year and can kind of tell something was off with me. I appreciate that. And I appreciate it now more that I knew that something was off. When time he's checking in, it was almost annoying.
Like,
but I'm just like, but I'm glad he did, because who knows? I could have been getting ready to jump off a cliff, you know what I mean? But, you know, so, you know, I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of people, but, you know, I'm just appreciative people have been in my corner. And even just meeting guys like you in the last year, man. We're going to do some cool shit together.
Good things. I'm excited.
You know, for sure.
Cool. Well, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. When I chop this up, I'll put links and stuff below so you guys can find him, and see you guys on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks, guys. Now, how do I get off this live?